My name is Trent, and I'm going to be hosting this call. This is a picture of me and my dad. I got very passionate about metabolic health when my dad, 7 years ago, died from stage 4 colon cancer. My dad was my hero. Many of you have a parent, a sibling, a loved one who is your hero or your friend. And that was my dad. Um, and my dad, it was the colon cancer that finished the poor guy off. But long before he had colon cancer, he had other problems. He struggled with weight control. He struggled with cholesterol, with blood pressure. He was insulin resistant or pre-diabetic. He was on a bunch of medications for these different metabolic problems. My dad had psoriasis all over his body and was being prescribed all kinds of drugs for his psoriasis, sometimes getting as many as 250 shots a month into his legs. And one of the main tragic side effects of those medications was colon cancer. And so my dad is no longer with us. He was taking biologics. He was taking all kinds of drugs. And unfortunately, he didn't make it. But when my dad got sick, I made it my mission to spread awareness about metabolic health, about the problem of insulin resistance. And now I have a pretty large following all over the world as I talk about this and teach you what I know and what I think can help save the world. It's important that you know a couple of things as we get started and before I bring these medical professionals, these very wonderful guests on tonight. By the way, that's me and my family. I'm a father. I have 3 young children, and that's my beautiful wife, Denise. And okay, we have lots of medical professionals on the call tonight. In fact, if you are a medical professional, if you're a doctor, a nurse, a diabetes educator, a dietitian, if you work in the medical community, would you mind just putting medical in the chat? I want people to see what is happening on this call. Okay. And many of you are watching a restream or listening to the recording of this. I just want to, I'm not exaggerating here. Okay. Chiropractor, medical, RN, medical, RN, medical, dentist, medical. There's another 53 messages of people saying medical. Okay. So, and counting. All right. So if you were to ask a bunch of medical professionals, and those that are on this call can, feel free to call me out if I'm wrong about this. But if you were to ask a bunch of medical professionals and top scientists what the biggest problem is in North America and most of the world right now, it's metabolic health. We have a crisis. There is an epidemic. It is a problem that is getting worse and worse. And the underlying root cause of many of these metabolic health problems is something called insulin resistance. Now, you may not be familiar with that term, but you will be familiar with it over the next few years. This is going to be everywhere. This is what everybody is talking about now. Most people are not talking about yet, but everybody certainly will be talking about this as more and more awareness grows. Okay. So insulin resistance is the underlying root cause that is either directly or indirectly related to things like obesity, like fatty liver, like diabetes and pre-diabetes. Diabetes is like insulin resistance squared. Okay. Migraine headaches often come from insulin resistance, right? Mental health problems like Alzheimer's, dementia, heart disease, which is the number one killer in the world, right? The number one killer in the world often starts with things like insulin resistance. PCOS, the number one cause of infertility among females. PCOS is a huge problem all over the world. And what's the number one contributor to PCOS? Insulin resistance. For men, erectile dysfunction, all kinds of pretty much every metabolic health condition starts with insulin resistance. Okay. Now, there are lots of drugs, lots of treatment options for all of these conditions. There's never ending treatment options, right? And they're expensive. They sometimes have side effects. For one reason or another, many of these treatment options are undesirable to us. I saw my dad slowly get sicker and sicker and sicker. It didn't solve the root cause of the problem. Now, imagine with me for a moment that there was a natural, clinically proven, and drug-free solution to the problem of insulin resistance. What if you could address, or maybe in some cases even solve, this problem? Well, in many cases, you might solve some of these other problems, right? And if you can start solving some of those problems by solving the root problem, you could change the world and save millions, probably billions of lives from premature, unnecessary deaths. People like my dad, right? There is a natural, clinically proven, patented solution to the problem of insulin resistance, and nobody knows about it yet. This has been studied by some of the top institutions in the world. There is almost zero awareness about it. And we're doing this call and we're inviting these medical professionals on for the sole purpose of spreading awareness. We, the people, need to be aware of what is happening and what the treatment options are and the natural treatment options that maybe nobody's ever told us about. Okay. Now, I know that many of you are not on this protocol and have not started using this program yet. And so if you've not been on the protocol and you don't know what I'm talking about and you're not aware of this solution, I'm going to explain it in just a moment. But I want to ask for a favor from all of you that are using the protocol. If you or somebody in your household maybe has one of these problems, right, around this circle, and you have been using the protocol, would you just put a yes in the chat for me? If you're using the protocol, put a yes in the chat. Okay. On the live call right now, we have it's up to 457 people, and we're getting more yeses than I can keep up with. Okay. So many of you are already on this protocol. Thank you. That is helpful for me. All right. Let me explain this, and then I want to bring in some medical professionals who are far more savvy than I am. Well, the whole world was taking statin drugs, metformin, Ozempic, and a number of other pharmaceuticals. Did you know that there is a natural alternative? This would be called a nutraceutical. Now, most people are familiar with a pharmaceutical, which is a drug, right? A nutraceutical would be a natural, clinically proven, so it has to be clinically proven, but it would be a natural alternative to the pharmaceutical, something that had no drugs in it. Okay. Now, this is a buzzword right now, this nutraceutical, and it's collecting steam and gaining energy because of, well, people like you and I that are talking about it right now. Okay. So there is a clinically proven natural solution that has 5 patents on it. So none of the big drug companies can copy it. This was actually originally developed. The foundation of this came from the Rexall name. Some of you are familiar with the Rexall name. Rexall used to be the biggest, Rexall Drugs was actually the biggest drugstore in the world. And back in the 90s, Rexall Showcase came out with a blend of plant fiber that they said would one day change the world. No drugs, natural. Okay. So nobody can copy it. There are now clinical studies done by the likes of the Cleveland Clinic, who is the #1 heart hospital in the world, the University of Sydney in Australia. I mean, these guys, University of Sydney, they invented the glycemic index. These are the blood sugar experts, right? There's a bunch of other institutions, BYU, UNLV, Stanford, and more than I can mention, that have studied this and are in love with it. They love what it does. Okay. There are no drugs in this. Nobody's trying to sell you a drug here. Okay. This is something that comes from plants. It is safe. It is also effective enough that it is guaranteed to work. If somebody uses it properly and consistently for about 90 days, okay, it's not magic. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But if you use it properly and are consistent, it will work for you. Guaranteed. The manufacturer guarantees it. Okay. Now you'd think that a protocol that had been studied by the #1 heart hospital in the world, that was safe, that was natural, that was clinically proven, and that was guaranteed to work for people. And let's just be clear about that. This is something that somebody can prove with a blood test. When they go to their same doctor and they do their blood work again, it will be dramatically, measurably, obviously better, or they could just get a refund, right? And I'm going to give you a bunch of proof on that in just a moment, okay? This is also something for the masses. Everyone, well, most everyone can afford it. and I'll explain how it pays for itself. It is now available in about 50 different countries, and we hope that it will soon be available all over the world. Now, this is HSA qualified already. It is FSA qualified already. And if this call can serve one purpose and one purpose only, I hope it's that by listening to the medical professionals that we have speaking on this call in just a moment, that it will wake up the sleeping world and let them know that there are alternatives that are natural with no drugs, and that this may, in many cases, and I don't want to oversell this, be a way off of prescription drugs. And that's not what I'm saying, because who am I to say that? That's actually what some of these institutions have said. And I'll show you the proof in just a moment. So what is it? Many of you said you're new, you have not started the protocol, okay? This is very simple. It is a two-step protocol. Now, it takes many people 50 years to develop some of these metabolic health problems we're talking about, right? Fatty liver, obesity, type 2 diabetes, right? And we're talking about attacking that aggressively. And to do that, there is a two-step protocol, which involves fasting and fiber, okay? Fasting and fiber. Now, when somebody is doing some fasting, it's important that they don't feel hangry or deprived or feel like cheating, right? And so the Unimate is something that is now in the physician's desk reference. Doctors can look it up and see everything about it, right? That when somebody sips it, it helps them forget about food, okay? In fact, recent clinical studies, one done by the number one expert in the world on insulin resistance, Dr. Benjamin Bickman, he studied the Unimate and said that it raises GLP-1 by 50%, in some cases more, okay? So think about that. The whole world right now is taking injections like Ozempic and Wegovy and Mounjaro and tirzepatide to try and get more GLP-1 synthetically. And those drugs are expensive, and those drugs also have some undesirable side effects for some people. But from the mate plant, Unimate is a concentrated extract of that plant that makes it very concentrated, very potent, but very safe. And they can get more GLP-1. We can get more GLP-1 naturally, without all the money and without all the drugs, right? Then step two, when it's time to eat, right before at least our largest meal each day, we are taking a blend of plant fiber, okay? This is something that is going to change the world. When in the next 5-10 years, when you're traveling to Pakistan or Pennsylvania or Peru, you're going to go into bakeries and coffee shops and go to family dinners, and at that bakery, they're going to be selling packets of this fiber at the front counter, because it will be common knowledge that if you're going to eat that donut, by having this blend of fiber called balance before you eat that donut, your blood sugar won't spike the way it otherwise would. Your insulin won't spike the way it otherwise would. It will help control cholesterol and triglycerides. And instead of eating a box of donuts, which I used to do all the time, I'll have one and be totally sugared out, right? So this is a two-step protocol, fasting and fiber. One that you sip when you're not eating, and one that you have before your largest meal each day. I personally have one before every meal because of what this does, okay? Now, what does it look like in a typical day for those that are new? Well, if you've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner, many people have snacks in between meals, right? What most of us are doing on this protocol, and some people are at a very healthy weight. We have athletes. We actually have a gold medalist that is using this protocol, right? So you don't need to be, I don't care how healthy somebody is. If they want to become more insulin sensitive, they can use this protocol to help them, right? So if you've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what many of us are doing is we're skipping a meal. We're skipping, let's say, breakfast, right? And the Unimate is used to make me forget that I'm skipping a meal. I can fast for forever. I've got some right here, right? I also have, what I'm doing right now is I have a second Unimate often between lunch and dinner to help me extend my fast or help me avoid snacking between meals. So while we're fasting, we're keeping that insulin level down, we're burning body fat for fuel, and we're becoming more insulin sensitive, right? And then before the largest meal each day, I'll have a balance. I like to have another balance before both of my meals, but that's pretty much it. It's that simple. One when you're not eating, and one before you eat. This one is one that I like to sip, and this is one that I like to slam or chug, right? Now, cost. The cost of this protocol is about the price of a cup of coffee per day. It's about $5 per day. All right. And what's nice is that by skipping a meal, I mean, most people spend more than $5 on their morning coffee at Starbucks or whatever, right? But when we skip a meal and even skip snacks, right? I used to have peanut M&Ms and Diet Pepsi in the afternoon or Coke, and now I'm saving that money and saving the money I saved skipping a meal, and that covers the cost of the protocol. We have people on fixed income, we have people on disability, people that have very, very limited amount of spending money. They're able to afford this protocol because the protocol pays for itself, right? Which is awesome for medical professionals to have something like this in their toolbox, right? I mean, there's 500 of us on this call right now, and thousands, millions more that I think are going to watch the recording. This is awesome. Now, some of you on here are skeptical for sure. You've never heard of this before. You're not one of the people that's on the protocol. I'm going to give you a lot of proof in just a second. Don't worry about that. But I want you to think for a second. What if this is all true? What if there really is a natural nutraceutical that is clinically proven, right? That's been studied by these institutions and they're saying is the bomb, and that this is something that pays for itself. In fact, if you're on this protocol and you have noticed you are saving money on the protocol, would you just write like a dollar symbol in the chat? Write a dollar symbol in the chat if you're saving money on this protocol versus what you were spending before. I feel like I save over $100 a month versus my old grocery bill. Okay. Look at that. Okay. Look at that. Saving. Okay. It is so awesome. Now, let's say you're the skeptic, like I was, who doesn't believe anything he hears and has to study and research everything. In fact, let's say that you've got your doctor right now, which we're going to bring some doctors on, but you've got your doctor on speed dial. And while I'm talking on the phone, you call your doctor and you're like, hey, I'm on this Zoom call. This is wild. These guys are acting like they've got something that's about to change the world and nobody knows about it yet. And I've never heard about it. Well, what about you, doctor? What do you know about unicities, Unimate, and balance? Your doctor's going to say, I've never heard of it. Tell me more. And you're going to say, well, doctor, do me a favor. I'm told that this is now in the physician's desk reference and that you can look it up. And your doctor can go and look it up. And your doctor will say something like, that sounds really cool. I'm surprised I've never heard of that before. Let me know how that goes, right? Or yeah, you could try that and we could test it, right? And 90 days later, you're going to go to the same doctor and you're going to do your blood work again. And your doctor then, when they see your blood work before and after, is going to be like, what did you say that was called again? I'm very interested. Could you send me some more information on that? Based on your blood work, I think that there are other patients I have that might like to see this. Okay. This is now HSA qualified. It is FSA qualified, and I think is soon going to shake the world. The Cleveland Clinic, the #1 heart hospital in the world, said that this product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk. That's the #1 killer in the world on a population basis, and that this could potentially decrease the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescription drugs. That's the #1 heart hospital, the Cleveland Clinic's concluding statement after studying this. Okay. This is actually the only natural, clinically proven, and patented alternative to statin drugs in the physician's desk reference. The doctor can see what it does for blood sugar, blood insulin levels, what it does for GLP-1. This is going to change the world. And I was going to show some testimonials and kind of explain that. I want to get to our medical professionals, but first I promised the group a bunch of proof. So I want to give you some proof, okay? And the proof that comes from me as the host of this call is less helpful than proof that might come from many of you who are actually dealing with type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, PCOS, hypertension, etc. So I want to ask you a favor before we bring in some medical professionals. If you or somebody in your home has been using this product and has been following this protocol, and if you have experienced measurable positive results, and I don't want you to exaggerate, okay? If you have experienced measurable positive results, put a sentence or two in the chat, and I'm just going to read some of this from the chat, okay? And I won't have time to read them all, so I'm going to skip around a little bit. We've got to get to the medical professionals. They're the reason why we're doing this call. Okay. I am scrolling because everybody's got money signs in the chat because they're saving money. All right. Let me find it. Okay. Derek Henderson, perfect lipid panel after 30 days on the product. No need for a statin. Troy Hatch, I struggled with migraines for 23 years. Acid reflux, anxiety, depression, brain fog, and after I donated a kidney 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. 7 years later, after starting this protocol, I have now completely reversed this. I freaking love this. I love it. Kate Monahan, my knee and hip joint pain is gone. Alan Kashner, I reversed my diabetes and fatty liver. I'm off 6 medications and lost 72 pounds. Michael Martin, 8.5 months, down 111 pounds. I was on 25 pills per day, now down to 3. 8 of those were blood pressure pills. I've reversed my type 2. I'm going to scroll a little bit here. Renee Peterson, 1 year off medications, down over 70 pounds, 65 inches. Vertigo and inflammation are gone. Dr. Kenny, down 50 pounds. Sleep apnea is gone. High blood pressure is gone. My wife has reversed PCOS over 20 years of PCOS. Renee Bird says, I've reversed my type 2 diabetes. Patty Parks, I've lost 50 pounds and I'm off 3 blood pressure medications. David Baker says 6 months, down 30 pounds. Kate Monahan, 20 pounds and 14 inches gone in 130 days. Joe Butler says, I've lowered my A1C. Rhonda Flores says, I've lost 27 pounds. D. Haynes, A1C went from a 10.4 down to a 7.2 in 3 months, down 22 pounds. There's 62 additional messages. Dr. Patrice Gordon, I've noticed my daily glucose levels have dropped. Misty Zimmerman, I've lost 62 pounds, reversed my neuropathy, off blood pressure and antidepressants. I took them for over 30 years. I feel 20 years younger. LaDonna Lamp. Sorry, LaDonna. I've been on statins for years. I started this at the end of October. My cholesterol level is now normal. Dan Bear, my A1C went from a 7 to a 5.9 in 2 months. Shannon Davis, registered dietitian. Triglycerides are down from 250 to 50, and my HDL went from 53 to 122. There are 60 additional messages. I do not have time to read all of them. Here's just one more. My A1C, this is Jeff Lanham. My A1C went from a 9.4, which is type 2 diabetes, down to a 5.4 in 4 months. No more high blood pressure, neuropathy, down 74 pounds. When I say that this is going to change the world and I'm going to give you proof, that's it. And we've got clinical proof. We've got social proof from people that are on the protocol. I've got my personal proof, and anybody that does it for 90 days and gets their blood work done will have their personal proof, right? If you use it properly and are consistent, it can help you. If you use it properly and are consistent, it will work for you, right? And the manufacturer guarantees this. I know that we can change the world. If somebody you love, if somebody you care about, if your dad or your mom or your brother or your loved one is struggling with metabolic health, you want to make sure they know about this. They will thank you later. Okay. They will thank you later. And the company has a really amazing way of helping people know about this. The way that they let people know about this is through kind of the coolest thing I've ever seen. And let me just explain it. It'll take 30 seconds. And then if there's a question or two, we might have time for a question or two. I saw one question about ingredients, which I want to answer. So when somebody buys this directly from the manufacturer, it costs about $235 per month. But you don't have to pay that, and most people don't pay that because when you order the protocol through a discount link, you only pay $159 a month, which is about $5 a day. So whoever invited you to this call can send you the discount link, and this allows you two things. Number one, you will lock in this price forever. You'll get the discounted price, the lesser price forever. Okay. So forget about this. You get it for about $5 a day. Same price I pay, same price all of us that are on this protocol pay, right? And number two, you will also get your own discount link that you can share with anybody you'd like to. And when you share your discount link with somebody else, they will get the lower price, which will make them very happy. They'll get the 90-day money back guarantee. You'll get a little $10 product credit, which is awesome, every time you refer somebody or every time they reorder, which might ultimately mean that you can get the product cheaper even than $5 a day, or maybe even for free if you refer several people, right? And, this is a way to change the world and do it as affordably as possible and give people something that is cost neutral, guaranteed to work, measurable, and that is clinically proven to have a dramatic effect on metabolic health. This is in the physician's desk reference. You can buy it with an HSA or an FSA. And just as you've seen tonight, there are medical professionals that are now catching on to this. Nobody really knows about this yet, but we want to change that. Every week we do these calls. This is the first call we've ever done like this with 5 doctors who selflessly came on and spent their valuable time sharing why they're excited about this. I hope that this will catch on and that there will be millions, not exaggerating. I hope that there will be millions of doctors, medical professionals, and regular people like you and I that share this with other people that we care about. It will work for them. If they use it properly and are consistent, it will work for them. And they have that guaranteed, and they can prove it with a blood test that they do with their doctor. Thanks for being on the call tonight. I did have one question that came in. Maybe one more we'll have time for. I want to wrap up. One person said, hey, I'd like to know about the ingredients. Right. She even mentioned that the company sends you a really nice bottle, right? This is what is the thing that they say? Is it BPA free? That's the safe kind. I think so. It's a very, very safe bottle. If you don't like to drink out of a plastic bottle, this is a free gift. You could put it in glass. Sometimes I put mine in glass, right? But that's totally up to you. The ingredients are safe. They come from plants. Somebody asked about maltodextrin. This is not the maltodextrin, the processed sugar type of maltodextrin. There's lots of different types of maltodextrin, including a resistant starch that is known as, I believe it's SCF maltodextrin. SCF stands for soluble corn fiber. And there is soluble corn fiber in the balance. It helps control blood sugar spikes very, very well, as well as a bunch of other fibers. So the balance is a blend of plant fiber. There's pectin, there's guar gum, there's beta glucan, there's a bunch of different types of fiber that go into the balance. And the Unimate is a concentrated extract that comes from the mate plant. The natural flavors in the balance are orange and grapefruit, I believe, from oranges and grapefruits. And the Unimate, depending on the flavor, also will have, like this one is apple spice, which is a seasonal flavor. And so it does have some apple in it, but it's incredible. It's clean. It is safe. These products are gluten-free, vegan, kosher, halal. And there's something else that I'm supposed to say, but I always remember that last one. Let's see here. Vegan, gluten-free, kosher, halal, and very wonderful. I don't remember what the last thing is, but okay. There was one other question. Billy Whitener. How long do you have to stay on this product? Michelle Blackwell also says, once you start using it, do you have to continue using it for the rest of your life? All right, that's a really good question. I want you to think about this different than as a magic pill. Okay, this is a nutraceutical. So this, is an alternative pharmaceutical, and it's also an extremely effective preventative tool. I not only did I lose weight, but I feel like I've maintained my weight now for coming up on 3 years effortlessly, right? Which is pretty awesome considering I used to be a yo-yo dieter where if I wasn't on a diet, I was gaining weight, right? But what I love about this protocol, okay, and this is seriously so cool about it, and maybe this is maybe let me just directly respond to your question. Think of it more like exercise, right? Somebody could say, well, how long do I have to keep going to the gym before I can just stop going to the gym for good and I'm safe, right? And that's not really how it works, right? As long as you continue using the protocol, you will continue to have the benefits from it. But there are no drugs in it. It is not addictive. And so at any time, you could stop. We have some people that use it indefinitely. They love it. They don't want to go off it. We have other people who use it to get to their goal. And then once they get to their goal, they stop. And we're happy for those people. They just, they're where they want to be and maybe they maintain with healthier diet and lifestyle and they're happy, right? That's wonderful. And then we have some people in the middle that use it on and off intermittently as needed. And all of those are good options. Susan Calhoun says, I'm a lifer here. Yeah, there's a bunch of people saying lifer, lifer. I think that once if it's not costing you money, if it's cost neutral, if it's saving you money, if it's making you feel good, if your doctor's thrilled with your blood work and you're able to get away with maybe a little bit more naughtiness when it comes to eating things that aren't so healthy, which, this does help with some of that. But it's not a license to just go eat whatever. Don't get me wrong. It's not magic, right? Yeah, why would you stop, right? So awesome. Well, hey, we're going to wrap up this call. Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Meegan Brown, Dr. Eric Aiken, Dr. Kenneth Harper, Dr. Tiffany Hendricks, Dr. Steve Brown. 5 fantastic, wonderful people who volunteered to give their valuable time and share why they're excited about this. If somebody you love is worried about their metabolic health, send them your link, give them the discount. They will thank you later. Love you guys. We'll see you next week. Have a great day.